Greetings, brothers and sisters. So I got a bunch of stuff to get to. I want to deal with Bob Saget's fans, some of them, and these concern trolls that keep on commenting. I'll talk about that. And, some news about him, things that one of my commenters, one of my viewers left a comment that remind me of something that I covered before, something really weird and sick about Bob Saget, something he said about his daughter that should shut these people up, but it won't because they're, incapable of changing, right? At least, for now. Maybe when things go south more, they'll wake up to some extent. But I wanted to address some comments. And like I was saying in a recent video, if you don't understand what you're seeing, and this doesn't apply just to me, but in general in life, there's the rooster. I think you probably heard that one. I don't know if it's responding to my voice because as soon as I start talking, it starts crowing. Maybe it hears me and thinks it's a challenger because it comes right behind there's a window behind the bed in which I record these videos. But anyways, if you don't understand the material, this is what people do. I mean, I see it on a regular basis. Every day somebody does this. They don't understand what I'm saying, right? They don't understand the content. It's over their head, and they go, hey, I don't understand this. This thing is too complex and too smart for me, so I must be an expert. I should comment. Right? I don't understand this at all, so I should comment about it, right? Like I see it all the time, and I know if it's happening here, it's happening all over the internet. People don't get what I'm saying. They don't really see it. They don't understand it. And sometimes they do, and there's a comment as an example of this, and they still comment in a critical way anyway. On some level, they agree with what I'm saying, and yet they, they still have to comment, even though it's completely over their head, right? Like if something's over your head, then maybe you should pray for more IQ points or just some consciousness shift or do something to open up your ability to understand something, which you can do. You can actually will yourself to be smarter in a way, right? But these people are like, nah, I'm dumb. I'm good enough as it is. I must be an expert because I don't, since I don't understand anything, I must be an expert and people should hear my opinion. No, like you should kind of understand something, especially if you're going to criticize it. It's not just critical comments. Sometimes people are agreeing with what I'm saying, but they just clearly don't understand what I'm saying, right? Oh, I also was going to get to Saturday Night Live. Did I say that? I haven't watched the video yet, but I'm going to get to their cold open because it looks promising. So anyways, here are a couple of those comments. And the first one is the person says, so I talked about how I met my wife on YouTube, right? This is to my apocalaughsnow channel. I talked about how a lot of good things have come to me through YouTube. And the person says, how you met your wife through YouTube, ? LOL. Can't believe you actually go to those creator summit things. And then there's an emoji. Yeah, you can't believe it because I don't even know what those are, right? Like, I have a sense of those. Like, I think, some time ago, YouTube posted something on YouTube Trends, and they have, like, meet and greets with creators. And it's not creators like Truther creators or someone like me. It's like young people creators, that have a lot of young fans. Like, I think that's what they're talking about. I have some vague sense that happens. And of course I wouldn't go to something like that. Like, why would you even, think I would? The person's being critical. You made an assumption. Like that was the only possible way YouTube could connect me and my wife, right? With social media being the way it is, that was the only way that could have happened. Is that what you're saying? Is a YouTube meet and greet? Like why bother commenting and you just assuming you made a large leap that's the only way that could have happened, right? There's no other way. There's no other explanation you could come up with, a way that YouTube or some social media platform could connect somebody without it being at some, YouTube convention that I would like never go to. Like, why would I go to something like that? And, you know, so it kind of was a wonderful comment in an unintentional way. And then this person says this. You know, I talk about how it's not my goal to wake everybody up. I talk about the Alex Jones model and all these people, you know, these so-called InfoWars. Of course, Alex Jones has controlled opposition as shill, but, you know, aside from that, there's this idea that was out there. If you could wake everybody up, then eventually, you know, things would change because everyone would agree with our perception of our country and all the rest of it. And therefore, we would have the political power and, you know, be able to change the system. And I talked about how that's impossible. Like, there's no changing the system. We already know that most people have been exposed to these ideas and theories, and most people aren't, you know, buying into them, right? So I've said that isn't my goal to wake people up. Like, I present information here. Well, let me read the comment, because again, a classic example of somebody who doesn't understand what I'm talking about, and this person actually agrees with me at the end of their stupid comment and making their whole point of view irrelevant and, you know, like a comment that should never have been written. Sorry, buddy. I'm Buddy in this thing. Not my dog Buddy who just looked at me. Sorry, buddy. But really, you're not trying to wake people up, ? Why even make YouTube videos every day exposing the beast system then? Most truther types on social media are aware we have zero chance of avoiding the apocalyptic collapse. But if one extra person is more prepared and survives because of something I said, doesn't that make it worth it? So that last line was the part that the person's telling me they're better than me, right? Because that's always a part of it. Like, there's always, you know, these negative comments, it's their way of saying, hey, I'm better than you. The person says, why even make YouTube videos every day exposing the beast system then? And so the person's, you know, that question is implying, oh, you're not doing it right. And then they say this, but if one extra person is more prepared and survives because of something I said, doesn't that make it all worth it? I.e., I'm better than you, right? Pretty much every one of the critical comments at some, you know, the center of it, at the core, at the heart of the comment, as you penetrate the layers of the comment, is the idea that they're better than you, right? So let's go back to that last line here. And the person says, but if one extra person is more prepared and survives because of something I said, doesn't that make it all worth it? Does to me. It does to her. Not to me, but to her it does. She gets it. You know, not me, but she does it. Like, it does to her. It's so simple. Like, I can't get it. I don't have the brain capacity to get this simple concept. But her, it does. She does. You know, but not to me. To her, yes. Me, no. You know, she's better than me. It's clearly, now we know. Thanks for clearing that up. I thought for a while, you know, this random person that I never heard of and don't know, and I don't think I ever left a comment before, showed up on my channel, and I might have assumed that we were equal, or maybe I was superior to her in some way, but now I know she's put me straight that she's better than me. And so this person was offended by something they basically agree with, that the system can't be saved. But I said in the segment that they're talking about that there is a spiritual awakening that's happening. Of course, the heartfulness meditation I talk about, and people connecting to God, which I believe to be the solution of manifesting a better system after this one collapses. I believe it's part of God's plan, and I talk about it regularly. But even then, you can't control what people do and say and think and whatever it is. You can't control other people's inner beliefs. You can only change themselves. They can only change yourself. People can take away from these videos anything they're going to take away from them. Most people aren't going to understand them, you know, in terms of the many sheeple that come across these videos. It's just level of understanding. And, you know, people don't admit they're wrong. That's the other thing. Like, everyone thinks that, I want to cover this in my journey series. I want to make another one of these journeys coming up. But that it's not about being right, because people don't care if you're right. Usually if they're wrong and you're right, they don't feel good about it when they figure out that, oh yeah, you were right all along. People aren't gracious. They usually don't come back and say, yeah, you were right. I'm sorry I gave you a hard time. I mean, they almost never do that. And so it's nothing, it's not about being right. And people in the truth community aren't, about being right. They want other people to agree with them. That's pretty much everybody wants other people to agree with their beliefs. And now they want to cancel anybody who doesn't. So that's, what this person's talking about. Because if you base your emotional condition, how you feel, your happiness, on convincing other people and waking them up, and thinking you're doing them a service by what you say to them, like, it almost never works. We know that. And most people hear these things and they reject them. So it's stupid and toiling, toil when you're toiling, when you're pretending to do work, but you're not doing anything. And I'm sure this person probably turns more people away with their presentation than wakes anybody up. People might wake up for my videos, but that's up to them. And they might end up doing heartfulness, but that's up to them. They might find the solution here, but that's completely up to them, and I don't care. Like, it's not my, goal to save anybody or save the planet or any of these things. And that's, arrogant to think that I would do so, right? Like, some people benefit from these videos, and it's a small fraction of the people who actually watch them. And, it is whatever it is. But I do these videos because it's my duty, and that is, to me, a higher calling than having some outcome, this idea that in the heartfulness system that you do the work and leave the results to God. I've said this over and over again. Easily understandable points of view. You're not going to wake anybody up. People have to wake themselves up. You might be a catalyst. You might provide information, but you don't wake somebody up. It's a choice. If anybody doesn't understand that by now, like, those people who are waking up are people who are predisposed to wake up in the first place. It's part of their samskaric pattern, their, what they come down with in terms of a soul. Because you can say the same thing to 1,000 people and only one will wake up. You didn't wake that one person up. I mean, like, be realistic about it, right? Why didn't you wake up the other 999? Like, all the people who watch my videos, only a fraction are going to understand it. And then you're going to get people who are triggered like this person and leave stupid comments that are pointless on every level. And another person left a comment. I think this is verbatim what they said, but it might be. I don't have the comment, didn't save it. But the person said, Paul, what's more important, making money or the truth? Because I talked about, needing to make an income from my videos. This is a job, right? It's a job that I do. And, there's duty involved and there's my spiritual path. But, if I wanted to make money, I could make a lot more money doing other things. Like, I'm smart enough and have enough skills that I could, if it was all about money, so it's stupid. Like, just stupid stuff people say, right? Like, it isn't either or. The truth is important, but, who knows the truth? Like, you think anybody out there really knows the truth, the real truth? People can accept the truth, that we're somehow, aware of the truth so much better than everybody else. It's just arrogant, and it's not true. But anyways, let's move over to the Bob Saget comments. So because my Bob Saget videos are getting more views, I'm having normies come in and watch them. Usually normies don't find my channel anymore. They used to. And I have a lot of comments with people trying to shame me for, saying things about, disparaging things about the grieving, these grieving Hollywood celebrities and Bob Saget's wife who couldn't wait to get on and do interviews and, go on the Today Show and things like this, right? And John Stamos, who came out and just said, after telling everyone what a wonderful, sweet guy Bob Saget was, and then came out and said, Bob Saget, the last time I saw him, a month before he died, he actually listened and he cared about what I said and, like all these things. He didn't interrupt. And this is my last video about this. And it was the Bob I wish was always there. I hate to say it, but, he's basically saying that all those things that he said were false, right? And so, I've had all these comments about people saying these things and then saying, Bob Saget was a little rude, but I think he was a great guy, and, all these types of things. But, I have something that should put that to rest. Something that he did that was so offensive and said that was so offensive, I think people will get more of a sense of, I don't know, they won't because they suck, right? They're incapable of seeing the truth, but at least it makes me happy to present it here. Okay, we'll get to the offensive thing that Bob Saget said in just a moment, but let's start here. This is something else that I forgot about, and now I'm remembering it. But it says, Full House creator Jeff Franklin is selling the mansion where the Manson murders took place. So the guy who created Full House bought the Charles Manson Beverly Hills property. It's supposed to be this beautiful property, and it's he's put it on for $85 million. But this is where the Sharon Tate murders took place and all these things, right? The helter-skelter stuff. And this guy's the guy who created Full House. There's all these weird, devilish, Playboy connections and things to Full House and Bob Saget and these guys. And that's something, like looking just beyond the veneer, which people who are sheeple just simply can't do. But here is the comment. One of my viewers left this comment, and I forgot totally about this, and I covered it in multiple videos. But this is an article from a publication called The Observer, and it was from 2005. So anyways, this is about Bob Saget's foul mouth, and it goes in, they talk about his telling that joke, the aristocrats. You can hear that on somewhere on YouTube, very inappropriate joke and not funny. And then just all these horrible things he said and, not funny things, gross and weird. And then it comes down to this story about one of his daughters being born. Here's his 3 daughters. So it's one of these 3 daughters. And this is really far down the article. This is a long article documenting Bob Saget's depravity. And so it says, in the comedy circles, there's a famous story about the night his first daughter was born. So I think it must be this one. She looks like the oldest. After a very difficult birth, during which Sherry Saget and her baby almost died. So this is, one of those traumatic labors where both of the mother and child's life is at risk. A friend showed up to find Mr. Saget looking utterly destroyed, unshaven, unrecognizable, but holding his newborn daughter. "Oh my God, Bob, she's beautiful," the friend said. And Bob Saget said, "For $1, you can finger her." That was his reply. And so this is what Bob Saget thinks is funny, and some twisted inner reality that he has, that he would say something like that, after this almost losing his wife and daughter, right? I mean, he's just a gross and depraved person, right? Like, this is mentally ill stuff. "The story continually comes back to me," he said. And so then Bob Saget confirms this happens. "This story continually comes back to me," he said, groaning. "Oh boy, was I a wreck, and I was just operating on whatever sick mode I'm always in anyway." This is his sick inner world. "I don't remember, but I don't think $1 is enough money for something that crosses the line that much. I would have said 5. So he's now confirming the story, but saying, his one problem with people telling the story, the thing he would like to correct, that, for something that crosses the line that much, he wouldn't have gone cheap with only $1, that he wanted 5. This is how sick this MNFer is, right? And, all these people who could say things about don't speak ill of the dead, right? That's what you have. All these people are grieving for him. Come on, he's Bob Saget. Like, he wasn't a likable person. It's just a bunch of people who are posturing and getting their 15 minutes of fame and saying how sweet and great he was. This is, the sick mode that he said. He had a sick internal world, and he spilled out his filth for his entire life. And, he leaves a legacy behind of doing bad things and being a bad person. So I'm in the editing process, and I realized I left something out. This happens a lot. And, one of the things I focus on here is people's internal worlds, my internal world and other people's internal worlds, and, what's inside of you, right? What do you have inside of you? And one of the huge problems with the human race, I don't know if I've ever said this before, probably have, but it's something worth repeating, is that most people are hiding the bad stuff that's inside of them, right? People are putting up a brand, putting on a fake smile, putting on a mask, not like the COVID masks, but putting on, some sort of branding mask, some false face, right? And pretending to be nice or pretending to be something to cover up the filth that's inside of them. Doing what's politically correct and going along with what everyone else. I mean, this is one of the reasons people just go along with the herd, because they don't want people to know what's really inside of them in terms of the evil that's inside of them. And people with depraved psychological conditions don't want, other people to know the evil that's inside of them. But also with that, people are scared of their soul and their divine nature. They're scared of what's best in them as well. People will hide what's best in them. They'll pretend to be nice, but they won't expose their loving heart, and they won't open their heart to people and let their love shine out, right? So both things are true, that people are hiding what's worst and what's best about them. And they're scared of those things. They're scared of the demon within, but they're also scared of the potential angel, the potential saint, right? And so they do their best to pretend to be something they're not, and they're faking it. They're hiding, what's worst and what's best about them. And mostly they're conscious of hiding what's worst and, just walling off what's best, right? And so they are, they don't want other people to see what's worse about them, and they're conscious of what's worse, what's bad about them. But they, have walled off and put like what's best in some sort of bubble. And they're like, there's a schism between them and connecting to their soul and God. I mean, this is what I talk about, the heartfulness meditation, connecting with the divinity that's within you. God is everywhere and within everything. When you get to the center of anything, you'll find God. So why aren't you working towards finding God within yourself, right? That's what the heartfulness method does through transmission and cleaning. And so that's why I talk about it all the time. And I worked as a counselor, and I did assessment measures, psychological assessments, and I used these assessment tests, and I just had a natural ability to read other people and get a sense of what's inside of them. And, people will come into therapy and they'll do things like art therapy, which is a great way to find out what's inside of people. When people do art, they'll express things that are inside of them that, maybe they don't even know. More often than not, they're scared and they've sealed these things off and they don't know what's inside of them. And so I talked about this with Woody Allen and Bill Cosby. Woody Allen did this movie Manhattan, where Mariel Hemingway was a 15-year-old actress, and her first kiss ever was with Woody Allen. She talked about it, recently. She's now in her 50s. And she was his love interest in this movie called Manhattan. They made out, and, I talked about this in many videos. And, some woman came forward and said, in real life, she was in high school and she dated Woody Allen while she was in high school. She was like 16 or whatever. And this is what this movie was based in. And so Woody Allen internally, in his art, his so-called art, wrote a script in which he plays the main character and he dates a high school girl. That's his fantasy, right? That's exposing what's inside of him. And Bill Cosby, he did a comedy sketch, and he also talked about it on Larry King, where he talked about Spanish fly, which is this, some sort of drug, aphrodisiac, that, as he said on Larry King, if you gave a woman a drop, she was yours. Like you put a drop in her drink and she was yours. And he's so gleeful about it.
When I was 13, man, start talking about weird things. You know anything about Spanish fly? What? Spanish fly? You know what? You know anything about Spanish fly? No, tell me about it. Well, there's this girl, Crazy Mary. You put some in her drink, man. She... Yeah, Spanish... Oh, yeah, that's really groovy, man. Spanish fly is groovy, yeah, boy. Spanish Fly was the thing that all boys from age 11 on up to death, we will still be searching for Spanish Fly.
That's right.
And what was the old story was, if you took a little drop, no, it was on the head of a pin.
That's right.
And
Drop
you put
it
it
in
in
a
the drink.
Coca-Cola. Don't matter.
It doesn't make it, and the girl would drink it, and
she's yours.
Hello, America.
You know, he's basically confessing to, you know, the things that he was later accused of. He was exposing his internal world in this comedy sketch about Spanish Fly. He was giving you some insight into his internal world, right? And so Bob Saget is, you know, a depraved comedian, and he isn't really hiding some of the filth that's inside of him. But maybe there's worse stuff that we don't even know about, right? You know, like, just think about that. But there's, you know, he's having his first child. And when there's a birth of a baby and you're around it, especially if you're the parent, it's a huge day. It's transformational, right? There are these big days in your life, and when your kids are born, those days are significant. You know, I was the fourth, you know, my fourth child, my son, was a home birth, and I delivered him, right? And so, you know, it's a very, it's a big day. And then for a father, when you're first holding the baby after it's been born, it's just this, I mean, it's this precious moment. The baby has so much potential and, you know, all these things. It's this iconic moment in your life when you're holding, you know, your newborn child, right? Especially for the man, because the woman's had a relationship with the child for 9 months. Even though it's inside of her, they're interacting and they're connected on a soul level in all these ways. But the father first gets to hold the child, and, you know, it's a significant moment. And for Bob Saget, you know, for his firstborn child, which makes it even worse, to come up with this depraved joke, right? Like, this is who he is. This is a defining moment. And all these fans who come in and, you know, well, why do you speak ill of this guy? You know, I mean, there's so many stories like this, and this article is filled with them. You can find the article if you're really interested in it. But this was not a good person, right? Like, let's, you know, get that straight first of all. And you got all these concern trolls that are coming in. You know, I mean, whether he's dead or alive, these are the facts about Bob Saget, at least, you know, some part of him. And it's contrasted to the Danny character, the wholesome Danny character he played on, you know, ABC Disney. All right, so that's enough for the Bob Saget crowd. Let's move on to this. And so here's this Madonna photo. This is Madonna's Instagram. And Madonna put up a bunch of her posing, her Madam Expiration Date stuff here. And I had an Instagram message from somebody. I'm going to show you this photo that, like, it's not a good photo that you want to, like, I just woke up and I was just drinking my chai and I was looking at messages I got and I looked at this photo. I'm like, oh man, like F, like, it totally antipathized Madam Expiration Date. And then this morning, another person sent me a video of somebody covering this. So I at first wasn't going to cover it, but I just want the photos to stop. Stop sending me this Madonna photo. This Madam Expiration Date photo. And so she goes through, she's modeling and doing her Madam Expiration Date stuff. And there's a couple of inappropriate photos here. I guess they're all inappropriate one way or another, right? She's trying to be young again. And then there's this. Remember she got some kind of butt implants? Like, I did a story about this like 3 years ago because she wants to be 20 again. And I'm getting people send me this thing. Stop sending me this thing. This is the last time I want to see it. Like, I'm looking away right. Don't look at it for too long or you go blind. What is going on? Now that her music career and acting career are officially over, she's got a bright future as an act in a carnival. All right, let's move on. So before we get to Saturday Night Live, remember there was this beef between Bette Midler and West Virginia what hashtag Joe Manchin, who represents a population smaller than Brooklyn, has done to the rest of America, who wants to move forward, not backward, like his state, is horrible. He sold us out. He wants us all to be just like his state, West Virginia, poor, illiterate, and strung out. And so she doubled down on these comments, and then she apologized. But the governor there didn't forget. Bette Midler fires back at West Virginia Governor Jim Justice over Bulldog stunt. So Jim Justice, he's a 70-year-old governor, and he brought his bulldog to a speech at the state capitol, and he turned the bulldog around and said, Bette Midler or anybody criticizing West Virginia can kiss his bulldog's butt because, you know, he's classy like that. and he got a roaring round of applause. I suppose there's a video out there. I'm not going to go find it because it's not all that important. And then Bette Midler said that Justice Dog's butt would make a better governor than him. You know, things are just so weird. Why didn't he bring Madonna in? Next time he should bring Madonna in. Things are just getting really weird out there. So I saw this. SNL weaponizes propaganda over Ukraine to influence laughter. And then Huffington Post, Pete Davidson, Aaron Rodgers is back on SNL to help with Kremlin disinformation. So the Ukrainian leaders are saying, stay calm, Russian invasion not imminent. They keep on saying this, and they are not really wanting America to push the panic button. And America's saying, well, they're just lying, right? That they're putting disinformation out about their own country's possible invasion and the help they would need from America and its allies. So that seems very suspicious, right? Like it seems like they're trying to wag the dog here and, you know, I mean, whatever Biden and his crew are doing here, the Ukrainians don't agree with it. You know, they've already had a bad experience with Hunter Biden, the crackhead, working for their gas company, right? Woo! Woo! It's fake Joe Biden, woo! Saturday Night Live sucks, woo!
Oh, man. Germany doesn't want to go to war. You know it's bad.
So that's not a joke. That's not a quality joke that a comedian would tell, right? It's topical and, you know, I mean, Germany hasn't been at war for years. America has been in, you know, wars and police actions, military actions consistently, starting with North Korea and then Vietnam, and then smaller police actions, military actions in like Bosnia, and then, of course, the Arab Spring stuff. And Germany hasn't been in a war since World War II, right? And so, but even if they had been very warlike, like America's far more warlike than Germany, but even if they were, it's not a funny joke. It's not a joke, right? To pretend that people are laughing to that, you know, who would laugh to that, right? It's not funny.
We've been tracking the spread of Russian disinformation in Ukraine, and there are some lies Ukrainians don't know what to believe anymore.
Okay, so this is going to be about disinformation, which, you know, Saturday Night Live is a disinformation tool. It's not a comedy show. It puts out disinformation and it aligns itself with the beastly system. And, you know, I know this is, I mean, I'm just watching this for the first time, but I got a sense of what it's going to be about. And then they're going to go to all the disinformation that Americans are putting out, independent people are putting out there in social media, and it's going to involve Aaron Rodgers at some point because of the article we saw from Huffington Post.
Russia tried that during our last election, too, but it didn't work.
Yeah, okay. Who puts out more disinformation, Russia or CNN? You know, Russia or NBC, right? And so they did this really bad bunch of skits and not funny jokes about Russian propaganda in the Ukraine. I'll spare you those things because it's not worth watching or making fun of even. But here's the Pete Davidson part where he plays Aaron Rodgers.
I am American ball toss player Aaron Rodgers. And my...
Why are you laughing? That's not a joke. That's, you know, you're supposed to be a professional comedian. Say when. Say when. It's enough. It's over. When. Just go disappear somewhere. Go to where the ghouls retire. Then they bring out the State Farm guy here.
Like a good neighbor, you are the Russia. Yep, there we go.
Yeah, it's hilarious. And so, let's go to the end here.
Well, we have to fight fire with fire. That's why I'd like to introduce you to our new Secretary of Defense, Michaela.
Hi.
This can't go anywhere good.
We believe in breaking down our enemies psychologically.
Psychological warfare for this Britney wannabe.
That's why I'm going to DM Putin and say, oh my God, I loved your outfit the other day. Was that Old Navy?
Okay, so this was their cold open. This was supposed to be Big Giant Colossal Cursor Knows. The funniest sketch is supposed to be the cold open. That's where they put the most writing and star power and all these things. And Saturday Night Live is just not funny anymore. They don't have any jokes. It's not about comedy. It's just about propaganda and, you know, I mean, it's sucking. Like, it just sucks the life out of you. It's like the antidote to comedy. It's the antidote to laughter. And so I was about to finish this video. And, you know, I've covered this before, that Saturday Night Live gets very pervy in their sketches. There's always one sketch where there's a pervy joke, you know, a la Bob Saget. And one of my viewers sent me this, and this is, I think they're doing this thing where they have like the writer's room. These are writers on the show. And then I think they've featured the writers a few times. And one of the writers is hanging out with a 10-year-old kid, and the other writers confront him on it.
Why are you friends with a 10-year-old? You're hanging out with a kid.
Oh my God, it's not like we hook up. Well, dude, how are we?
See, Saturday Night Live always ends up in pervland in one way or the other.
Yeah, like, hey, I'm 10, let's go dancing and drink some Hennessy.
And they slowly begin to accept this as being normal.
Man. I am eating your steak now, dude.
And then the kid starts performing the Heimlich, but it looks like something else, right? And, you know, it's just creepy Saturday Night Live, pervy stuff, and then the steak's flying out of his mouth.
Maybe I was wrong about you. How about tonight? We do go to a nightclub.
Yeah, I'd like that.
Let's drink some Hennessy!
So by the end of it, they've normalized hanging out with a 10-year-old boy, grown-ass men. And they're getting physical and the close approximation and all the weird, you know, I mean, it's just creepy as F. Their mouths are all open in this picture. And like I said, it's been normalized. Like, oh, it's okay, right? A couple of them protested, but they were won over. And this is how it ends. You know, I mean, this is how it ends. This is how the sketch ends, and this is how America ends, right? Like, what are we doing here? I mean, just look at what I covered here today. Like, it's just so depraved. This is not Sunday material, right? Usually I do some sort of spiritual video. But this thing went south quickly. Like, I didn't know about that sketch when I started making this video. You know, the Madonna thing, I just was like, all right, let me get this off my plate because people are going to be sending me this picture. And literally both days, I opened up the, you know, Instagul, like, you know, one of the first things I did when I was drinking my chai, and like I got the Madonna's weird ass, you know, bulldog butts. It's just so bad out there. It's just, you know, it's time to tap out. Like, you know, somebody tap out. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely reporting from the Apocalypse and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.